Hello everyone from Digaí and BRM podcast. I'm here strictly from New York, as you can see, with my new friend, Javier. Hi, Eric.
Hey, Marcelo.
How are you doing?
Pleasure.
It's my pleasure. Thank you very much for receiving me. From up front, I'm sorry if my English at any point goes bad, but you know,
I'm sorry I don't speak Portuguese.
No, it's okay.
So
it's
we'll make it work.
The good thing is that nowadays we can make like subtitles for everything, so it's going to be great for anyone who is listening to us. So we're here at CCS Fundraising, right?
Right.
And it's great. It's like the whole floor. It's a beautiful view. Congratulations for that.
Yeah.
So Eric, so we can start our conversation. What is fundraising? Because I remember that when I lived with Chris, his whole family was a fundraiser. And I had a little bit of hard time to understand the fundraising job. What is to fundraise?
Right. So I think it's important to, well, first of all, I'm so glad we can have this conversation.
Thank you again.
And so I think it's important to recognize that fundraising can mean many different things. You are, amongst your many roles, an M&A attorney.
Okay.
And there are businesses, there are private equity firms, there are hedge funds that also raise money. They raise capital, investments. Right.
All the time.
Right. So that's a form of fundraising. That capital gets deployed, invested in businesses with the hope of a return for the investor.
So they can have profits.
Correct. The fundraising that we're talking about, the fundraising that CCS does, the fundraising that your American family, has done their entire lives, right, is fundraising for the nonprofit sector. And so the funds that are raised, that are then invested into a variety of causes, variety of nonprofits, isn't for the same type of return, profit to the investor, but rather a return for the cause that they're investing in.
Okay, all right. And that that this is not, some people may, so this is philanthropy, right?
Right.
But where does the money go to? Like any kind of institution, like public and private? How does it work?
No, great question. So so it's interesting, and I didn't, I didn't take Latin and Greek when I was in school, but even the word philanthropy, philanthropos, means the love of mankind.
Does it? I didn't know.
Yeah, or the love of humanity.
All right.
So even from the word, you can begin to understand like what this is about, right? So where does the money go? I mean, I can tell you, specifically that there are, at least in the United States, and I would say that I'm sure in Brazil and many other countries, there are categories of nonprofit institutions that tend to be the largest recipients of philanthropy, of donated funds, charitable dollars. The largest recipient would be religious organizations, churches, right, synagogues. So I'm Catholic, and in many churches, they pass the basket for donations, right? And that would be a form of fundraising, a form of philanthropy, right? So religious organizations would be the largest recipient, although that has become smaller and smaller over the years as more people... The amount?
Okay.
The amount and the number of donations.
All right.
And that has a lot to do with how more and more people are becoming less affiliated with organized religion.
Okay.
Just generally, right?
Yeah. That's me, by the way.
Yeah.
That's me, by the way.
So you can understand, right?
100%.
So religion would be the largest. The second largest would be education.
This is good.
Yeah. So, of course, colleges and universities, right? Higher education, but also private and independent schools. You shared with me you went to a private school.
I did.
Right? And almost all, not all, but almost all private schools are also nonprofit. Of course, you get tuition.
Yeah.
But in addition to that, to provide scholarships, to build the new gymnasium, you usually need dollars that are over and above tuition.
Perfect. But the money I totally understood where the money goes to. But where does it come from? Only from private sector? Do you receive any money from public sector? The CCS, does CCS works also with the public money or no?
No. So from government, you mean?
Yeah.
Yeah. No. So philanthropy is really. Let me try to explain this. So the philanthropy is really coming from the private sector.
Okay.
Individuals, corporations, and foundations
Nice.
are the three main sources. When it comes to foundations, there's a few varieties of foundations. You have large granting foundations like the Gates Foundation, the Ford Foundation. But then many wealthy families have started their own family foundation.
They have.
Right. And so they do that as a way to formalize their philanthropy and to do it through a vehicle like a foundation. And then we're surrounded by major corporations here. IBM headquarters is just a few blocks away.
Right.
So IBM as a corporate entity, they give some money away, but there's also a corporate foundation associated with it that is the granting arm of these companies.
Okay.
Has
the amount of money, not too religious, or I mean the total amount, has it been growing the past few years?
It has.
It has.
So in the United
What do you attribute that for?
So in the United States, in 2023, there's about $560 billion donated by Americans.
$560 billion.
Half a trillion. I think let's call it $500 billion.
That's 3 trillion Brazilian reais. That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. What's the Brazilian GDP?
6-1. Oh, the GDP now.
We should look because it's interesting.
Yeah.
So this would be the trend of philanthropy in the United States.
Let me show it's growing. Okay.
Marcelo, by the way, just as an aside, if it's helpful to you, we have some of these in like a PowerPoint. If you want to associate
please
it
send
with
me later so I can put it into the. Okay, cool.
So to answer your question, it has grown for the most part over time, and we would attribute it to increasing wealth
all around the world.
Now this is the United States.
All right.
Right. So these statistics are the United States. And the United States would of course be the most charitable country because of the way the country was founded, because of our tax code. There's great benefits, right, for people to donate to charity, to minimize their tax burden.
Yeah, right. We kind of have the same in Brazil.
Yeah. And so it's very cultural. There's a lot of history to this, but in the United States, Marcelo, the total philanthropy has pretty consistently been about 2 to 2.2% of GDP.
That's a lot.
So when GDP grows, philanthropy goes. And if you think about it, when a family earns more money, feels more comfortable, when certainly basic needs, but even some of their wants in life. They bought a second home. They have the car they want. Their kids' college tuition is taken care of. There is some excess liquidity. And again, going back to philanthropy, humans generally care.
They do. I totally agree. And it's very nice for me to hear all those numbers because it fits a lot with the ideology that I follow, which is, as I was telling you, I'm a libertarian. And most of the libertarian, or maybe all of them, should be individualists. But when we say individualists, not that we want to live by ourselves in an island without anyone.
Right.
Is that I want everyone to respect my individual rights the same way that I gotta respect all your individual rights. And what does it have to do with what we're talking about is that most people who are individualists, they have this value that we call rational self-interest. And rational self-interest is that you gotta pursue your own happiness. So people think that I should do everything for my happiness, even going through your rights. That has nothing to do with it. And once again, what does this has to do with what we're talking about? When we donate, when we do philanthropy, we help the environment get better. When the environment is better, it's better for me. It's way better for me to live in a place where we have more education, because I have more people, more educated to work for me.
Right.
When I have a better place,
A beautiful park.
Right, a beautiful park. It's imagine like US, imagine like New York, like we call this the stone city, you know, because of the walls from the buildings. But you have a place that when I was in the middle of the Central Park, I felt that I was in New York City because I couldn't hear all the noise. It was like a wall,
like an oasis.
Right, oasis, and I felt like there was a wall of trees that was putting me aside of all this craziness that it is the city. So it makes a lot of sense to me. And we libertarians also think that taxes are immoral and that people should willing to do more donations, because taxes is a way where the government, this is me talking, okay, just make sure, take away your property by force instead of you doing what's better for you and for the society that you're living. So I get really, really glad that what I'm hearing here from you. And I wish that in Brazil we had more of that. I really wished. I really wish that would be way better. You're telling me about Central Park, right? Only 10% of the maintenance of Central Park comes from the
government, comes from the city budget.
And if you have never been to Central Park, my friend, you should go. It's insanely well cared. It's perfect. It's beautiful. A lot of animals, a lot of different the biodiversity. It's huge. Everyone's very respectful. People playing, kids playing. Every kind of thing. So it's awesome. It's awesome. And how far do you think philanthropy can go in here?
Well, this has been a big conversation for the nonprofit sector and even for some government leaders, because, as I said, total giving has been pretty consistently 2% of GDP, and it's been hard to move past that. And this is where, and not to get into a political debate. I think this is where there are limitations, sort of an understanding of the limitations of philanthropy, just like there are limitations of what the government can do, right? And I think in a lot of, depending on the city, depending on the state, this coming together of public funding plus private funding or charitable giving, right, is when good things happen. So to answer the question, I'm not sure how far it can go, right? Because
if wealth keeps growing, you're growing.
Correct, but I think
the percentage
it's been hard to move it more than 2%.
Okay.
So that means that for philanthropy to grow, we need the economy to grow. We need more people to, of course, earn more money, right? But for it to be 5%, 10%, you'll be asking individuals or families to begin to give a disproportionately higher percentage of their own wealth.
Yeah.
Now, some do. You have you heard of the Giving Pledge?
No.
So Bill Gates, founder of Microsoft, Warren Buffett, the two of them got together. This might be 15 years ago, and they created what they called the Giving Pledge. And what they did was they tried to set by their own example other billionaires to pledge while living at least 50% of their net worth to charity. So much more than 2% of GDP, right?
Of course.
And it was a way to encourage generosity, especially from those who had
their examples, right? So when they They do this so people try to follow.
And they're the ones with outsized ability to give, right? And so that has helped you. So you see, if you read in the paper here in the United States, the size of the contributions to many of these institutions. When I started in this business 25 years ago, you'd read about a gift of $10 million and it would make the newspaper. Not anymore. Now you see 100 million, 250 million,
That's nice.
$500 million gifts from one
From
individual.
the same person, yeah.
Yeah.
And how do you think, what's the paper, or what's the role actually of the government in all this? Does the government get any part of the bureaucracy with you, CCS, when you know he's totally apart?
Totally
This is
separate.
good.
Yeah.
Do you think that makes your job and the company's job more efficient?
Yeah, I mean, we that's a complicated question, but I think we help fundraise from the private sector, right, for charity. Now, there are, Central Park was an example. There are many museums. So I do a lot of work in Washington, D.C. Have you ever been to Washington?
No, not yet. I want to someday.
Yeah. So if you go to a place like Washington, D.C., and I'm curious, like in Brazil, if you think of some of the great like museums, many museums either were funded by the city,
Yeah.
but then maintained by private philanthropy.
Okay.
So this is where you have like the combination again of government plus the private sector coming together, sharing responsibility to make something good happen. So is it good that government that we don't have to do? Yes, it is, but I think again, depending on the institution,
Okay.
there can be strategic value
Nice.
of collaborating with public funding.
That's good.
Yeah.
And how well does Eric feel doing what he does?
Yeah. Great question.
Because it's more about you, not about.
Yeah, no, it's when I was introduced to CCS, to this company, to our firm, by a business leader who knew about the firm, and he said it was a place where you could do good and do well. And I don't know if that makes sense to you.
Makes sense.
And so now we make a decent living. I don't work on Wall Street. I don't do M&A,
I'm just the beginning.
But able to make a good living, but through the work doing good in the world.
Yeah.
So I would say almost every day. It can't be perfect every day, but most days you feel great because you think about all the causes, right? Whether it's education, healthcare, human service.
Do you have a preference in where to put the money on?
Yeah, well, I'll separate personally.
By the way, how does it work when the
Yeah.
the donor like Gates? I suppose that Gates wants to give you like $100 million right now. He chooses where, or you choose?
No, it's a great question. It's a good thing to clarify. So when a donor gives, they don't give to us and then we distribute. They give directly to.
So normally
charity.
you're hired by the
nonprofit institution.
Okay.
So we're hired by Central Park
All right.
Conservancy, by New York University,
Okay.
by Carnegie Hall,
All right.
right? By a museum,
All right.
by a food bank, right?
Okay.
One of my favorite clients here in New York City is called City Harvest.
Okay. I've heard of it.
Yeah, so they are a food rescue and distribution center. So they try to gather excess food before it's wasted,
All right.
supplement it with other food they purchase, and then distribute it.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
That's very nice.
Yeah.
That's very nice. So when you hired, so it's like a closed line, like direct line. You just are the helper to find whoever wants to donate to that
That's right.
And you normally know who likes to donate to this kind of, some Gates normally likes education. I don't know. Musk normally likes.
Right.
Okay.
So part of our role, Marcelo, is so we do a lot of research, right? And so we help the nonprofits figure out like who would care about our work, right? And so
that's a nice list.
This is public information.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
So these are in 23. These are the top 50 donors. So Michael Bloomberg, you know Michael.
Yeah,
former mayor of New York. He personally gave away $3 billion to charity.
That's so crazy.
And you can see, this goes to many different causes.
Right.
But you see some people who have a specific interest, and everyone has their own.
Yeah, their own.
Cause.
Yeah,
right?
Yeah.
But to your point about individual preference and
Right.
choice, right?
Right.
It's a nice thing. And so our role, Marcelo, is to work with the nonprofit to try to find the donors who have an interest in their cause and then help design strategy to help them raise more money.
All right, that's perfect.
Yeah.
Well, Eric, it's been like a wonderful conversation. I'm sure that we could be like here for many more hours. I'm a very curious guy. I ask you if you have any, I don't know if a message or advice to our Brazilians, listeners and viewers.
Yeah, I mean, well, I'm curious, like what the nonprofit sector, what philanthropy looks like today in Brazil.
I have no idea.
Yeah.
I have no idea.
Yeah, from what I know, right, I think that most.
I don't know anyone who does your work in Brazil.
But I think we have worked with a few. I wish I had the names, but with a few Brazilian-based nonprofits, and I think a lot of the funds raised are from corporations.
All right. Of course, there's a lot of donation. I'm just saying that I'm just talking about like a CCS. Fundraising company. I don't know any.
Right.
And I know a lot of people who makes donations, of course.
Right.
Just not through fundraising company. Normally, they choose a entity and donate directly.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I guess my message to viewers is like, philanthropy, charitable giving, is a means, a way to improve life.
It is.
And if you as a business person or as a citizen in Brazil want to find ways to improve life in your community, in your city, right? I think philanthropy is one, of course, not the only, but one way to do that. And I think by being involved in a nonprofit, by donating personally, by encouraging your company, I go back to philanthropy, the love of humanity. And this is a way to improve humanity.
Nice.
So,
Eric, once again, thank you for your time. Thank you for all, the knowledge that you gave me and the viewers right now. Congratulations for your job. I hope that sometime that I come back here, we can meet up together.
Please.
Maybe for a beer or a dinner or anything, okay? Thank you very much. Congratulations.
Thanks.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.